Hey everybody, welcome to Talking Hawks. Back again with a little bit more draft talk. Here we are. I'm Chris. This is Daz. How are you, Daz?
Hey mate, how are you? I'm well, thank you. I'm looking forward to getting stuck into, the most hypothetical of all our draft picks it looks, because where we talk about these guys is going to be dependent on our draft position, and there's a Brownlow medalist standing in the way of our predictability with this pick. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens.
Yes, I know your mind goes into overdrive and you never stop thinking of all the possibilities that it's out there. So without further ado, you've mentioned the player. So what's the scenario?
Yeah, so as reported, I don't remember the original journo, so that's probably on me, and I should have remembered that. The permutations were taking up too much of my time, but it looks like Mitchell and pick 24 to Collingwood for pick 16 is the trade that's on the table. The Pies are keeping their cards pretty close to their chest in terms of accepting the deal. We now know they've reached out to Matt Crouch, and he is their backup plan if a deal can't be struck. I don't know how passionately the Pies are set on keeping pick 16. I think if they're able to fall back in the draft 8 spots and pick up Tom Mitchell, who'll be feeding the ball out to your likes of De-Goey, Lipinski, Nick Dacos, if he rolls through there, Jack Crisp is going to serve their midfield a bit better, then the Hawks are going to be able to move up and potentially take a guy that's definitely not going to be there at our original pick 24, which is why we've kind of lumped these guys into 2 groups of 3 rather than the group of 6 that we talked about in the first video.
Yeah, well, we know Graham Wright very well, and he knows he knows how to deal well. So I think that's a win for them, and it's probably I'll call it a win for us as well. All right, so pick 16. You got a few candidates there for us, mate?
Yeah, we sure do. And I'll start with the guy that I think is only hinging on one club, and that might be the Demons. Let's start with the Dandenong Stingrays, Henry Hustwaite. I've watched his brother a few times through a different one of my sporting duties, and he's got a brother at Collingwood VFL as well, does Henry. But at 194 centimetres, he's played centre half back, he's played half back, he's played midfield, and he's played wing. Now, the positive to that is he's very versatile. The downside to that for a few clubs, not potentially the Hawks, is they might not know what to do with him. And that could be our advantage at pick 16. Now, of all these 3 guys, I think he's a little bit of a chance to fall to 24. If a team like a Melbourne or a Sydney, who I think are the 2 guys that could best serve with him, aren't fully set on what to do with him yet. I look at a Jacob Van Ruin from last year. The Demons picked up who played back and forward, and they were that good that they just thought his talent's good, and we'll figure it out as we go along, and he's going to be a forward for the Demons. So 194 centimetres, so he brings the size. He finds the footy with ease. He didn't have a great final, it must be said, in the NAB League Grand Final, which might cause him to slip. But he's ready-made. He's a really, really good kid. We've talked about character before. We've seen Josh Ward and Connor McDonald be fantastic young guys. I think if the Hawks would have a set role for him and put him into a team with guys like Ned Long, Jai Sarong, Connor Nash, these bigger bodies around the footy, whether it's at stoppage or at a centre clearance, would serve us well. So he's definitely one to watch, whether it's 16 or 24, but I'll lump him into the 16 group.
So from my quick homework, likened to Pendlebury, clean, composed, and has good vision. And
we'll take half. We'll take half of Pendles, thank you. That'd be handy.
If any of that is true, I'll happily put him in our brown and gold.
Yeah, all right. Doesn't waste a possession, which is very handy.
That's what you want to hear. Alrighty. Number 2, who have you got next on the list?
Yeah, so before people comment below, these aren't any kind of power rankings. They're just in the order that I do the research, so don't think anything of that. But the second one, I've kind of got to give a shout out to fellow Talking Hawks alumni, Smithy, Jake Smith, the man himself, who put me onto this guy originally. So if he does end up in the brown and gold, Smithy will be doing cartwheels. But that's Ollie Hotten from the Sandringham Dragons. He is a guy that if we did have pick 24, that I would be screaming at my TV or wherever I'm watching the draft that the Hawks should trade up for him. He reminds me from watching him a little bit of what Sydney did with Tom Papley this year. I know Tom Papley is a bit of a figure that might induce a little bit of anger from Hawks fans, of course, but his ability to impact a stoppage first and foremost and be really quick in getting forward of the ball is something that he's loved. His forward craft is outstanding. He kicked 3 and had 24 against South Australia in the National Carnival, and any chance that you can get one over the South Australians is one that the Victorian fans are going to take big advantage of. He loves a big moment. He had 25 touches in the NAB League Grand Final, and he used the ball cleanly in conditions that just didn't really ask for it. And your best form is exposed form. Well, the last 5 games that he's played, he's averaged 21.5 disposals, and he's kicked 3 goals in those 5 games. And he is a genuinely decent user on his opposite side by hand and foot. So for a guy for footy IQ and your centre forward kind of player, if I can use a soccer term there, Ollie Hotten, Sandringham Dragons, he would be a very welcome addition to a Hawthorn side that wants to attack under Sam Mitchell.
Sounds like a handy inclusion. I'm pretty happy with that. He was a bit of a draft bolter, as he's moved up the rankings throughout the season.
Yeah, I think on a different, I believe, I apologize if I've got this wrong, but I believe the Inner Sanctum, who do very, very good draft research, had him outside of their top 40 in June. And then in the recent Twomey Phantom draft, he had him at 19. So the back half of his year, and there's another guy we'll talk about a bit later whose back half of the year is really firming him in good shape. But he's always had the talent. It's putting it together with some consistency that's making him rise higher and higher in draft boards. He's a guy that a club could see as maybe a top 15 pick, whereas other clubs might see him as pick 30.
Yeah,
it just depends on where you stand in your sort of power rankings, and I, along with Smithy, rank him very highly.
Beautiful. That's what we want to hear, mate, because we trust you. All right, on to the next one. Big fan of this one. Who have we got?
Yeah, the brother of. We've seen it in cricket with Steve Waugh v. Mark. We've seen it in the Marsh brothers, Sean v. Mitch. The younger brother is genuinely the more flamboyant. Whether it's better or not, but the flamboyance. But I'm a massive fan of the Murray Bushrangers as Ollie Hollins. This man will go 100% on the first bounce and will go 100% at the 30th minute mark of the final quarter. He had 23 touches and 7 marks. He was the best player for Vic Country against Vic Metro. I know Aaron Cadman was very good in the game, but I had him as the best. He had 27 touches in each of his last 2 games for the Murray Bushrangers. The Bushrangers themselves weren't fantastic in the NAB League, but he was fantastic. His brother Elijah from the Suns, I was a massive fan of in his draft year. Now, Ollie's not as big, so he is smaller than Elijah, but he is quicker. Both like hitting the scoreboard, and Ollie is better defensively the contest as well. So you give us the ultimate workhorse, and if the Hawks do manage to get maybe a tall with pick 6 and they'll want a small at 16, then I think Ollie Hollins leads the race there. If the Hawks desperately need a midfielder in their top 2 picks, if we don't get it with the first and we need one with the second, then he's leading the charge for mine if he's still on the board at 16.
Mate, you come off with the Brett Lee run up there. You built that up huge. Yes, like we said, his older brother unfortunately had a few injuries, had huge expectations, and I guess the younger brother can quite often end up being the better one. So looking forward to seeing a bit of his footage. All right, so there's pick 16 wrapped up. Those 3 are sort of in your mix. They all sound pretty good to me, mate. So in this
pick
scenario, we're also talking about pick 24. So where are we at there?
Yeah, looking at a bit more offensively powered guys here, I think the Hawks are kind of, as fans, we're kind of sick and tired of these defensively minded guys. I know the midfield leaks a little, but it's easier to teach established guys defense than maybe a draftee. So let's go forward to the ball a little bit. Let's start with Gippsland Powers. Jacob Constantine, I believe is his pronunciation. Hopefully there's a family member that correct me in the comments if that's not right. But we talk about, Rough and Pendles. They've all got the basketball background. Watch out for Channel 7 and all the commentators to remind us of his soccer background. So he's got the pace, he's got the sporting IQ, and he's so clean below his knees. He reminds me, if we're talking reminder, I'm not a massive fan of player comparison, but I understand the need for them. Paul Puopolo is the one for mine in the sense of forward 50 pressure,
Yep.
Hits the scoreboard, so he kicked 16 goals from 12 games. Mightn't sound like a lot, but he led the NAB league for tackles, and although it isn't a recognised stat, any draft expert that's watched him for long enough reckons he'd be in the top 3 for pressure acts, and it's not particularly that close. This man was having 6 tackles a game as an 18-year-old kid, where you usually say to him, just go get the footy and see what you can do with it. His defensive prowess is already there. And of course, during the three-peat, we had the offensive gift of Cyril and Punky, of course, but Poppy's pressure along with those boys made us such a dangerous forward line. So, again, he's the kind of guy who might differ in teams' power rankings. I look at a Kai Lohman from last year who Brisbane took at the back end of the first round, and everyone kind of went, who? I think this could be a case for Jacob here around that 24th mark. A club could go early and take him, 16, 17, 18 and put a real spanner in the works. But if he's there and we want to be locking the ball inside 50, given the fact the Hawks were a bottom 3 side for inside 50s, but we were able to score, he'd be a massive part. He, Sam Butler and Tyler Brockman in a post-Luke Bruce world would be just a fantastic foil for Mitch Lewis and hopefully Jacob Kazitsky once the ball hits the ground. So keep an eye out on Jacob Constantine or Ty as probably the better pressure player in the entire draft.
Yeah, sounds like a good prospect. And like you said, averaging 6 tackles a game. So that's pretty consistent goal a game. So, yeah, welcome.
Yeah,
welcome
if you're giving us
good luck.
If you're giving us 6 tackles and a goal a game, mate, we will be buying your badge and jumper by the thousands, much like we did Poppy.
All right. Who have you got next on the list?
So I am fully in favour. If you watched part of the 6 for pick 6, if you haven't, go watch it after you've watched this. But every Hawthorn fan, if you're a Hawthorn fan that knows anything about the draft, it is that Harry Sheezel is the man that if you're going to trade up for, is the man that we want to take. Well, if West Coast don't budge and the Hawks don't end up with Harry Sheezel, well, Sheezel 2.0, in a sense, might be available at 24 because a bit like Ollie Hollins, we spoke about his brother Ollie, but Elijah did an ACL and then fell in the draft. Well, Braden George is falling down some power rankings because of an ACL that he did in August. So we're not going to see a lot of him in 2023, but worth the gamble? I would argue, yes. He's had a 6-goal haul and a 5-goal haul in the NAB League. He's had over 3 inside 50 tackles in a game, twice in the NAB League as well, which is fantastic. He is your 30 to 60 metre out from goal type operator. He's a beautiful kick, delivering it inside 50. And given the fact that he's got a great jump and really, really good hands for a guy his size, I know we like to use the small, medium or tall, but I'll go your small, medium style forward. If the ball is in his area, good things are happening. He's a quality, not quantity type of player. And I know every small forward, the question often gets asked, well, can he roll through the midfield? We don't need him to yet. Put him on Connor McDonald's half-forward role that Connor played this year when Connor goes into the middle, and he could flourish here. If we don't get Jacob Constantine, I imagine him, Sam Butler and Tyler Brockman in a post-Luke Bruce world, and you'd be pretty excited if you're a Hawks fan. So he's the Harry Sheezel light that isn't being talked about maybe as much as he could be.
So like you said, mentioned the knee injuries, comes with a bit of risk, but a lot of upside. Seeing what the Hawthorn injury staff has done with Sicily this year off back of an ACL. So we've got to back our medical team in. And, if we did take that risk, sounds like the reward's well and truly worth it. All right. Now, you've got a big smoky coming up, according to me anyway. That's what I'll call it. So let's go with your last mention.
Now, if the AFL, I don't know how many footy fans know this, but the AFL had a meeting before the 2019 draft. It was in the back end of the 2019 season about changing the father-son rules for the AFL instead of 100 games to make it 50. Now, if this had have happened, the Hawks would have Noah Anderson. That would be pretty handy, by the way. But that ruling not being allowed is also going to cost us this man. Or is it Ed Allen, the son of Ben at Claremont? You're talking about guys that have been absolutely racking it up in the back end of the season. Now, Ed is your utility. He has lined up, if you look at just the paper sheets, but he's played wing. He's played half forward, half back through the midfield. He is a positionless player. So he doesn't actually have a position. Think of it like a Zach Toohey in 2022. He was named at a forward pocket at one stage, a wing, half back. I think he was named on the wing in the grand final and spent the majority of the game in defence. So don't really worry about where he lines up. But where the footy is, he goes. He played Colts for Claremont, and to end the year, he had 20 touches. He had 25 touches and 10 marks. He's got really good hands. He had 27 touches and 7 tackles. He had 31 and 9 marks in a game and finished his year with 23 touches. In that run of form, again, if the Hawks believe they can find a spot for him, again, like Hustwaite, then he would be a really, really good addition. And for those that had footy cards throughout the late 2000s with the old utilities written on them, it seemed like they were going to everyone. His draft profile is reading like a guy that can play multiple positions. If the Hawks know where the best place is for him, then I truly believe in giving him a shot. Again, with guys like Nash, Ned Long, and these guys, bigger bodies around the contest are going to be needed, and he would certainly add to that.
Yes, you've mentioned his recent numbers. I looked at his numbers the year before, and it's been a huge increase. So obviously playing Colts at a high level as a young kid, so it's pretty impressive. So I'm pretty keen on him. What is he, 194 as well? So big, tall yet lad who can, multiple positions. Sounds like a good nugget, mate.
Can you tell that I'm sick of the 184 centimetre midfielders yet? Is that coming across? I think it is. I think the fans have figured it out by now, but we've got enough of them. Let's go with that. Although I think Ollie's 186, so I'm allowed one exception.
All right, mate. So you've thrown us mostly Victorians and thrown in a quick Western Australian lad. So
yeah, no bias there at all, I can assure you.
That's what I was going to say. Is that where the talent's at, or you're thinking Hawks just keep it local to make sure they stay at home?
No, it's purely position based and a need for mine. There are fantastic guys. Queensland aren't really producing. It's not going to be a Queensland kind of draft. There are a couple of guys. Lockie Cowan from Tassie, I think is going to be a very good player, but he's a halfback flanker. And with all due respect, we have enough of those. So it's purely coincidental and not geographically based. The go home factor, I know, with Jason Horne-Francis and these guys, is getting talked about a lot. But you look at Brisbane, you look at Sydney, not too many guys are leaving there because of their fantastic culture, and that's what the Hawks have got to back themselves in. And before people comment about Jordan Dawson, it didn't really affect them that much. They played in a granny.
Yeah. All right, mate. Love your work. Looking forward to a bit more draft talk as things get a bit closer and maybe a few more dominoes move around the board. But any last pieces to go out with, mate?
Yeah, well, at this stage, you were listening to Mark McKenzie on Trade Radio, looking like the Hawks are only going to take 4 picks into the draft. Now, considering we've delisted 7 or retired 7, there are 7 spots on our list to be filled. That's interesting, whether we go to the rookie draft a bit like Ned Long and try to find the guy that no one took that we're a massive fan of, I'm not sure, or we might be looking at some delisted free agents. Quinton Narkle is still on the run, so Daz's hope is still there. Unbelievable, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we upload this and then an hour later the Hawks get a pick swap from somewhere and whatever happens. But, I mean, it's called the silly season for a reason, and we can't wait to dissect it all, but we got to have faith in the Hawks at the moment. I know there's plenty of frustration around the Jack Bowes situation, and rightly so with pick 7, but we've got to live with it. We've got to move on, and I'm sure that the drafting team will do as good, if not a better job than they did last year with 5 very, very good youngsters.
Let's hope so, mate. Well, you've given them a few choices there to pick from, so
if they're looking for someone, I'm available. It's just reach out. That's okay.
We love your work, and we'll keep you updated, fans. Thanks for joining us. Check out all the videos and check out the podcast that have just been started. Daz, wrap it up, mate.
Yeah, so the new podcast is simply, well, we've actually kind of gone 20 minutes here, so we're on brand at the moment, but the fan live streams are going to continue. I've had a couple of people reach out. Believe me, we are all about you, Hawks fans. We're going to have you on and have you interacting with us, but the Talking Hawks podcast is going to be as simple as if we've got some time and there are pressing Hawthorn issues that we can get up and just spend 10, 15, 20 minutes on. That's what we want to get out. We know a lot of footy podcasts these days are an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours long, and not a lot of fans have got time to filter through all of it. But, if you've got to duck down to the shops or you've got to go pick up the kids or drive home, 20 minutes, bang, stick it on and you'll get your Talking Hawks fix from the entire team. I was on with Smithy to farewell Jack Gunston. I was on with Timmy to talk about the fallout from the Jack Bowe situation. We're going to get you on soon, Chris, of course. Your chats with Matt or whoever, we're going to chop and change. But for a bit more Talking Hawks fix, you can check that out on Apple and Spotify. Google Podcasts is coming very, very soon. So give us a follow there with a rating and review, and make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube as well. The climb to 1,000 is still ongoing, and we're getting there quicker and quicker by the day. So we appreciate all your help, Hawks fans, and fingers crossed we come out of the draft in the off season in very, very good shape to improve on a very nice 2022.
Cheers, mate. Well said. Thanks, Hawks fans. We'll keep you updated and speak to you soon. Bye.
Go the Hawks.